It's so funny. So I'm just about to film right now, and I'm gonna start very with a lot of vulgarity. And I just remembered that it wasn't a week ago I added these two 15-year-old kids, these studs, these twins, onto Instagram. They said, can I follow you on Instagram? And I said, of course you can. But I told them, I said, I use profanity. I'm trying to watch my profanity use because I'm getting a younger and younger crowd. And I'm learning that in this divine and noble quest that God has for me. I'm having more and more influence on younger and younger folk, younger and younger men. But I wanted to start this very vulgarly. I'm going to say the word faggot. With a text message that I got, let's see. Hold on, I had it zoomed in 3 days ago. 3 days? Yeah, 3 days, Thursday. Sorry for the noise outside. Today is Sunday. 3 days ago. Southern California school board member sent sexual messages to minor, police say. And I'm going to show a picture of that faggot. That was the school district I worked for. And that same guy, I had one of my coworkers come up to me from inappropriate messages that guy was sending to one of my coworkers. I took that information and I went to my serpent superior, who was the whole catalyst for the double investigations and for everything with work to bring me where I am today. And she did absolutely nothing about it. And the law for today, law number 47, do not go past the mark you aimed for in victory, learn when to stop. And I'm not saying it's a victory to be able to get away with sending incredibly inappropriate messages to people who you fucking oversee as a board member of a school district, and to be able to get away with that. But in terms of, in regarding a victory, like, it's not a fucking victorious thing to do. You not getting caught or going to jail or having repercussions for these consequences can, in contrast, be viewed as a victory versus now your fucking arrest for your faggot ass. Okay, so I told you the language go out the door. Do not go past the mark you aim for in victory, learn when to stop. So it wasn't enough that he was harassing these people. Now he's sending inappropriate and sexual messages to fucking minors. Okay. We're going to learn a lesson today. Law number 47 of the 48 Laws powered by Robert Greene, which is do not go past the mark you aimed for in victory, learn when to stop. And I'm going to do a lot of quotes because there was a quote that I saw from Troy, or that I first thing that come to mind when I read this law. And she said, why are you here? And he was like, I want what all men wanted. This is Achilles talking to Briseis. He said, I just wanted more. I just wanted more. And in the book, The Psychology of Money by Morgan Housel, there's an idea of a sense of enough. And I was having this conversation with someone just the other day, a woman who was Brazilian that was traveling in Buenos Aires. That's where I was this past weekend, or last weekend. That's why there was a missed law number 47 upload. I wasn't here in Sao Paulo, Brazil. I was in Argentina. And we talked about that. I said, the fascinating observation about humanity is people don't harbor gratitude in the moment. They only harbor gratitude in hindsight. As in, I told her, I was like, right now, I'm in almost no physical ailment or pain, but I'm not, and even being cognizant of that, I'm not practicing deep, sincere gratitude to God. Thank you so much for my teeth no longer hurting right now, or, my blisters on my feet that were agonizing the first month of martial arts training, that's, gone. I'm not consciously thinking about it. It's only when you're having that ailment or that pain or that hurt, do you remember the good days? And you're just like, damn, I would be so grateful to not have this pain right now if you could just remove this pain, And I remember going through all my teeth pain, even the procedure that I had to have, or the root canal treatment here in Brazil, because there was still, trauma to that area. I was just like, it was giving me that nostalgia, PTSD of all that, not PTSD of dental, work, but all of the pain that I went through in, February, March, April, May, June, whatever. It was several months long of I went through like over 10 dentist visits for wisdom tooth removal, crown, root canal, because I hadn't gone to the dentist in a very long time prior to that. So who's to say whose fault it is? But point is, I was very, very grateful for the pain when it was gone. Like when you have a cavity in your tooth and there's nothing that you can do to stop the pain. It was past like midnight, no stores open. I don't have access to ibuprofen. And you're just like, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. And it's just incredible nerve pain. That is, it's a very, very shitty feeling. But once that's gone, then you're grateful for like a second, for like a moment, for maybe a weekend. And then you are distracted and you're out of harmony with gratitude. So that was the things that came to mind, was I was having that conversation with her. Everyone practices gratitude in hindsight. Very, very, very few. I've never seen it actively where people practice gratitude sincerely, deeply, daily, in the present. And when I say, it's not that people don't, meditate or think of a few things that they're grateful for, but I'm talking the embodiment. I've never seen someone consistently practice embodying the emotion, the feeling of deep, like heartfelt, like you just saved my life gratitude on a daily basis. I've never seen that. And it's not to say that I don't, try to view things in a very positive, uplifting, optimistic view at all times, which I do. But gratitude is one of those things where it's kind of the superpower, the secret to the world. I've learned in my practice that God loves gratitude. And it's so easy when you personify God as yourself. What makes you the most happy with the people that you help? When somebody is incredibly grateful for your time, your effort, like when someone is giving you specific praise and recognition for this effort that you did to them, you're so much more appreciative, encouraged, to give them even more. It's the one who's ungrateful for all the effort that you give them, all the gifts, all the gold, all the wisdom, all the knowledge and time, and they just take it for granted. They take you for granted, and then how do you feel? Do you feel more inclined to help that person, or you're just like, I'm wasting my time, energy, efforts, my heart on the wrong person who doesn't even appreciate it, versus this person, I give them a fraction of that and they're giving me, all of this thanks and gratitude and appreciation. I think you could also tie it into people who have not known love in their life, who have not known like true unconditional love on their journey, when all they know or have known is neglect or mistreatment or manipulation or breadcrumbs. And you offer them a banquet of gratitude, of recognition, of praise, of appreciation. It's so unheard of, you know what I'm saying? And I saw a video maybe like a year ago, a few months ago, and it was talking about how that level of bounty for a person who's never known it terrifies them. And it said the reason that it terrifies them is because, what if I disappoint you? Because I've disappointed these people who only loved me conditionally by not meeting this, standard of performance or earning in terms of the love reciprocity from the conditional nature, behind their love that they offer and that they give. But this person who's willing to give me all of this love unconditionally, should I fail and disappoint you in some way? Because when somebody who loves you, they're going to hold you to a higher standard because they believe in you. And this was the mindset of the girl in the video. She was like, then I have failed as a human being and I don't deserve to live anymore. And I heard that, I thought that fucking ridiculous. But she was like, as irrational as that sounds, that's the mindset of that person. It's that deep unworthiness and that deep shame and fear of disappointing somebody who actually believed in them. You know what I'm saying? And these past 2 weeks, I've been running on fumes, finishing my martial arts training here in Brazil. And I have been gifted the privilege to train with my boxing coach, Marcelo, he's the embodiment of a Christ-like figure, larger than life, full of love, very welcoming. He's been a guide on this divine journey. And knowing that it's his time to work out. He's not coaching me. I mean, he is giving me tips and advice and these things like during, but this is his workout. And this guy has been training for over 20 years. He was on the national team of Brazil, the best fighter in this entire continent. And this is his workout. And when I would come from, it being my 13th, 14th workout of the week, and I'm malnourished and I'm sleep deprived and I'm just fucking, drained in this, and I just have no gas in the tank and I'm running on, fumes. My gas tank has been on E for a very long time. I felt this level of guilt and shame and disappointment for not giving him the best workout that I otherwise could have, given him. And I told him in a message, and he gave me the same response that I just responded from that Instagram video that I told you that I saw regarding that I failed you as a human being, this guilt, shame, and disappointment. I texted him saying, I know that you could see the guilt, shame, and disappointment in my eyes when I felt like I've hindered your workout. I've tried never to take it for granted because I know what a privilege it is to train with you here, you know what I'm saying? And I'm, very, very grateful for the opportunity of this thing. And he just sent a bunch of laughing emojis. He was like, you didn't hinder anything. But that's his, mindset. But for me, I don't take it lightly. There's a fucking bug on this TV. It's crawling. I don't take it lightly when somebody who's, a world champion offers me their time, energy, effort, thought, consideration, wisdom, knowledge that everybody else, just takes for granted just because they have his class and they see him, 4 times a week. I love to practice gratitude and because I know how finite this life is. And I know that most people, they don't harbor that cognizance, that awareness that it's such a fucking privilege. And I'll give you another example. My Muay Thai coach, I think I shared this in a prior video or in my other documentary series that I'm working on, behind the scenes, that I'm not posting here on YouTube. I am posting them, but they're unlisted. I need to post all of them though to get something ready by the new year that I need to get working on. 25 years he's been training Muay Thai, and 2 people show up to his class, me and one other person. And I'm just like, dude, this guy has 25 years of wisdom, knowledge, experience, and he's willing to stay with you a fucking hour after the class to give and give and give. I said, how the fuck is this not being, not milked, being taken, not taken advantage of, but like, how the fuck is this not being utilized? You know what I'm saying? How do people not see this golden, trove, all of this treasure that's right here, readily available? And that this person, in their unprecedented generosity, is just so willing to give for free. It's in terms of his extra time. It's crazy. It blows my mind. And I like the personification of God or us, let's put things into perspective, as us, as reflections of him, because then it's a lot easier to bridge that gap that, all of these people or spirits or higher powers are readily available and very, very willing and are happy to give you anything that you want, to give you all their time, all their wisdom, all their knowledge. You might not like the answer. It might bruise your ego. You might get, a little humble slice of pie. But at the end of the day, it's going to benefit you. It's only going to be for you. It's only going to be for the greater good. Have you ever seen the movie Hot Fuzz? They say that, the greater good. It's like a cult that's meaning. It's like, stop saying that. Amazing movie. Does any of that make sense? So the whole precedent of this is do not go past the mark you aimed for. Learn in victory, learn when to stop. And most people, they don't know when they have it so good. Do you know what I'm saying? And the whole premise of this is to not search for greener grass. And I'm gonna tie in dating to this. I'm gonna tie in even my circumstance right now. When I came here to Brazil, and I was in Sao Paulo, and I have these, Muay Thai classes that I'm taking, these boxing classes, these Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu classes, right? And I was like, oh, I could cut my time here, because I'm on the 90-day visa, in half, and then spend the other half in Rio. And I told myself this. I said, do not go looking for greener grass. I said, you're in a place right now that is a wealth, a well, and a wealthy well of knowledge, of experience, of champions, of black belts in every single category, of these guys who are so willing to give you all of their knowledge, experience, who are so English capacitated, as in they're able to speak to you and communicate in English. I said, you could go, and it's an incredible, friendly, encouraging, uplifting, safe atmosphere. But most people who are, have egos or arrogant or, who violate this law, do not go past the mark you aim for. In victory, learn when to stop. They'd say, yeah, this is amazing. This is fantastic. This is perfect. But let me see what else is better. Let me go to Rio and then let me go take their classes in this because there's going to be, better champions or more opportunity or this. And it's just like, it's a huge lesson for the young person watching this, that the water is greener where you water it. The water is greener where you water it. Where focus goes, energy flows. It's a quote from Tony Robbins. If you're constantly looking for the greener grass, what you're going to find are serpents and snakes and weasels and rats in the new lawns. You know what I'm saying? Versus here's some fertile soil. I'm surrounded by love. I'm surrounded by encouragement. I'm surrounded by support. I'm surrounded by people who want me to win and want me to succeed and who are so unbelievably generous in their all that they have to give. I'll give you an example. At the Fight House gym, the boxing gym that I also train at, the black belt owner was giving me lessons on wrestling for several minutes, even after the last sparring day class was over. And it's just like, well, for your opponent here, this technique isn't successful. What you need to do is when you sprawl, you need to go on your side, and then I go for a single leg on him instead of a double leg takedown. Generous. But if you're not fucking grateful, if you're not harboring gratitude, if you're not present, aware, and you're just like, yeah, this is perfect and amazing, but let me see what else is there. Let me see what else is, where the grass is greener. It's garbage. Okay. With that, I'm gonna go over my notes. I've set the scene, starting with that fucking pedophile who's running the school district. But one thing that I also want to add to that story is my serpent snake superior that I went to, she was the mentee of that person. I just let that sink in. That this pedophilic faggot who's on a board of multiple school districts, running the show, in charge of all these major decisions, this close to fucking children, right? He's the mentor of this serpent snake who runs this entire division of the school district. You realize that the people who are in these positions of authority are these fucking cretins, these demonic creatures who are just the most incompetent, incapable, and if you actually knew who they were behind closed doors, they're just parasites, fucking disgusting creatures. But that goes to show you that if you align with love and light, nothing that they can do, even if they, draft paperwork for your resignation, even if they, use manipulation, malevolence, psychological abuse, harassment, bullying, all of this garbage, playing a victim narrative, all this coercion, working with other leaders to get a subordinate of theirs fucking fired for their treachery and abuse and mistreatment. I swear to God as my witness, if you align with love in your heart and light, none of what these faggots do can harm you. Not everything, they will be used in beyond their fucking arrogance and their stupidity and their short-sightedness. They will literally be used as an instrument for your good. And I'm living proof of that. I would not be living the life that I'm living right now if it wasn't for the hubris and arrogance and ego and stupidity of these demonic children. So with that, let's get into the law. There's a quote from GSP, George St. Pierre, who's a UFC world champion. He said, know when to hang up your gloves. Know when to hang up your gloves. Most people, they violate this law. They go beyond the victory. They stay too long, right? On the field, in the game, they don't know when to quit. They don't know when to walk away because of ego. You know what I'm saying? And then there's a scene from South Park. These are all my notes. I wrote them right here before the filming of this video. There's a scene from South Park that captures the violation of this law in perfection. They were trying to win their town back from the Native Americans, and the only way to beat these guys was to go to their own the Indians casino and put it all on black or whatever. and because they needed enough money to raise in order to buy their town back. And they win. they land on, it's like roulette or whatever, and they land on the exact thing that they need, and they got the money for the town. And then one of the fucking guys says, wait a second, if we win again, then we'll win, there's like 12 something million dollars. We could have our town back and be rich. Hell yeah, let it ride. and then it cuts to the kids, and they're like, what the fuck are you doing? And then they lose. And then he's like, Stan, when you're on a winning streak, you can't you won one time. Hell yeah, let it ride. It's fucking ridiculous. But as hilarious as that story is, that literally enacts this quote is one of the other first things that I thought of. Okay. I told you the quote from Achilles. He said, what did I want? What all men wanted, I just wanted more. I just wanted more. In the book, Psychology of Money, Morgan Housel talks about a sense of enough. Most people, particularly the ones who are mentally, spiritually trapped, emotionally trapped within the rat life, they're constantly chasing what people call as keeping up with the Joneses. Keeping up with the Joneses? The Joneses. They're constantly chasing that next thing, right? And I was even victim of this, victim of that trap. Prey to that trap? I don't know. I take my phone, for example, okay? When this is an iPhone 13 Pro Max, I was like, before this trip, I said, I need an iPhone 16 Pro, whatever. And then I need a laptop that's like this, and I need 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 this. And then as I got closer and closer to my departure date for July 3rd, I was like, well, I guess I don't actually need, this fucking extra $1,500 phone that does no difference to this. So I guess I don't actually need, this quality of laptop or this, because the one that I have, even though when it comes to the video rendering and the editing, it's quite slow. There's a lot of lag. The frames per second aren't, I can't watch the playback in like real time. It kind of like glitches, so it's not the most ideal within the editing process, but it can still render a 4K 1080p whatever video that I can then post on YouTube and this. So it's like it serves the function, serves the need. I have what I need, and I need all that I have. Whatever the hell that hippie mantra is, but it's very true. And that's from having a sense of enough. But when you're trapped in the rat life, when you're seduced by materialism and commercialism, you constantly feel, based on all of this programming, conditioning, propaganda, I need the next thing. I need the next thing. You know what I'm saying? I don't have everything that I need. I need and I want and I need more garbage, more consumption, more trash, more debts, more enslavement. And that's where you will get stuck chasing that endless wheel, that endless cycle, you know what I'm saying? Versus having a sense of enough. And what's beautiful is this, traveling kind of cures that. When it's not to say that you can't enjoy the finer things in life and you can't have, these niceties and these luxuries and these pleasures, but when you travel to places where those are not an option, you learn to be satiated, satisfied, content with what you have. You know what I'm saying? I'll take laundry, for example. It's a luxury in a lot of places to have a dryer, particularly in places with Europe, just because of the cost of electricity, or because it's so hot in some places, they find it redundant. It's just a waste of money when you could just air dry, hang dry. If I were to show you all the clothes that I just did with my laundry that are hang drying right now, not because there was a little weasel serpent who tried to, it's not to vent, but I go down to the laundry, put all my shit in with the laundry detergent in the clothes, and they reserve the fucking thing from the outside. Like, I was literally sitting on the couch to reserve it while in there, and then he goes, reserve it from the outside, he's not even in the room, and then comes, frustrating. And so I was like, do you want me to take all my fucking clothes out that are already in there? But, because they reserve it, then they pay for it from, without even being in the room. But life happens for you, and all the frustration. I would not have read this law, because I was sitting in there fucking twiddling my thumbs for 36 minutes. I was like, okay, what how is this happening for me, God? And then I was like, oh, well, we got a law to do. So Very, very frustrating, but life always happens for you. So, but to that point, this little weasel serpent who made me take all my stuff out, he's not a weasel serpent. God uses everybody for my benefit in my reality. Didn't use the dryers, you know what I'm saying? One was even turned off. So it was divine orchestration and guidance. But my point is, needless. Versus if you go to Southern California, it is almost not a thing to hang dry your, in fact, I've never seen it. I've never seen somebody hang dry something unless it was like a specific fabric or a material that requires that. Otherwise, it's just very standard. You wash and you dry. I was having a conversation with somebody who was at their last day at the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu martial arts gym, who lives in the East Coast, like from Boston. He's also American, left. He was my arch nemesis, very, very arrogant, did not like him whatsoever. But from the last week, we were kind of reflecting. After doing 3 months of this journey together, we were reminiscing on times past. And I asked him if he was excited to return to the United States. And I said, do you know what I miss the most when I travel? I miss large grocery stores. And then he was like, dude. And I said, dude. I said, a Vons, a Walmart, a Costco, and Albertsons. Oh my God. Where you could go down an aisle and there's 30 different Reese's flavors because I need the assortment, you know. and then I told him, I was like, people, you know, here, they don't know. And he was like, they don't know. And it's very true. Like, and I'm not saying it's a good thing to have 1000% instant gratification, as in, and this is probably the downfall of most of Western civilization in regarding to development of the youth. But when you go to a place like Southern California, anything that you can possibly conceptualize, you can have that day, not next day, that day, and anything you can think of, and any appliance, any material, and anything, any service, you can literally put it in your mind. And you could Amazon Prime it, or it's in driving distance of where you live in a store. It's unbelievable in terms of getting someone accustomed to this kind of instant gratification, to where you go to other countries and other places, and then you'll find yourself in otherwise inconvenient, situations and circumstances that are now developing, growth within you. That growth could be patience. That growth could be work ethic. There's a lot of positive virtues that are elicited from discomfort that a young person or an older person who has only known a life of fucking luxury with a silver spoon in their mouth, as they say, will never know, because they've never had any hardship, any struggle, any adversity, any inconvenience within their normal day. So does any of that make sense? I wanted to tie all of those little bits of food for thought, food for consideration in regarding this law. Okay. And then we talked about having a sense of enough. Because I'll tell you what the ultimate victory is. Sorry for the noise. The ultimate victory within this law is feeling like you've won. Not feeling like you need more, feeling like you've already won. I've learned that within my relational development, just within myself, within my relationship with God. I literally right now walk down the street. I will see this somebody who I know is employed by the enemy in terms of being like a succubus, and I'm just like, I am so. There's a quote from Greg Plitt, and he says, I don't care who is in front of me. You could be in front of me naked, bent over. He said, nothing and no one is going to derail me from my mission at hand. And that comes from focus, it comes from purpose, but it also comes from feeling whole and complete within yourself, not needing another person to complete you. And that's kind of where I'm at in terms of my relational stance right now. My heart is so convicted, resolved on what I know I want, that everything else it's beyond that I don't have a care, desire, or interest for. It's now I think healthily developed an animosity towards, meaning I learned that from Andrew Tate. He said, to be a champion, you have to hate all these things that people love. You have to hate the nightclubs, you have to hate the parties, you have to hate the festivals, you have to, and he's taking it to another level. But it's not that you need to have hate for it, but it's you have to have such a disinterest in it that it's not even, part of your, it's not taking an ounce of your energy, an ounce of your focus, an ounce of your time, an ounce of your, it's not providing any distraction to your path, and right now that's exactly where I am regarding the all of these temptations and short instant pleasures or gratifications that I see being presented to me on my path. I'm so resolved with what I'm doing, with where I'm going, with what and who I want as my person, but also as the man that I want to become, and be prepared as that. All of these other distractions, I have a healthy animosity towards. I'm just like, get the fuck away from me, because it's when you can actually see beyond the veil of how precious your time is, how precious your energy is, how precious your value is, who you are as a man on the path, somebody who when you're just honest with your heart, who's in complete surrender, who's in complete obedience to God and what he has called you to do, then dude, anybody else who's not aligned with that or on that path, you need to get the fuck away from them. You need to make sure that they are not taking any of your invaluable energy. Because a lot of people who just deplete, who just, succubus is the best visualization that I can give, the imagery that I can give you guys of, and because I give you 2 examples right now. I shared this with Ricardo. There was a chick from the gym who I just paid a wholesome compliment. I said, you have a beautiful smile, because she really did. She takes my number from the fucking system. This has to be against our rules. And then texts me, you're very handsome. I look her name up in Instagram. Chick is fucking married. And I said, what the fuck? Get the fuck away from me. Another person DMs me, ignore. And then they post on their thing, what do you call it? Hashtag bae, hashtag like 3 years with my boyfriend. I said, dude. And I'm not saying guys don't operate like this. I'm not saying, it's just women or by any means. But what I am saying is you need to be so careful of your energy and the preservation of your integrity and your character and your intent, and make sure that is aligned with love and unconditional love and truth and honor and this, because there's these fucking these demons, these succubi out there who just, and it's incredibly disheartening to learn that somebody would be in a relationship with somebody or fucking married to them, and they're off doing these side quests that their partner is otherwise unaware of, ignorant of. Dude, it's complete garbage. It's crazy. But we'll get into dating later. I have a couple more quotes. The perils of hubris. The perils of hubris. So if you think of what happened to Achilles, I haven't read the Iliad. I read parts of it, little excerpts when I was an undergrad, but I never read the completion of it. But if you just watch the movie with Brad Pitt, 2004, Troy, he says, I just wanted more, when his mother, who was a muse, I think she was an immortal goddess, who had dipped him by his ankle into the river Styx to make him, immortal except for, his Achilles heel. She said, you have 2 choices. You can live here and you'll live an amazing life. You'll have a wonderful family, a beautiful wife, all these children, all this. Or you can go to Troy, and your name will live on forever. For thousands of years, people will write stories about you, but you will never come home, kind of a deal. And so what did he choose? He chose more. Even when they had the opportunity to sail home with his myrmidon, his army, right? He said no. He said, I want more. I'm not satiated. I'm not satisfied. I need more. You know what I'm saying? He didn't have a sense of enough. And what was the result? What was the result of the perils of hubris? He died. He died by Orlando Bloom, who would become Legolas. Okay. Icarus, this is a good imagery as well. Icarus soaring until the sun melts his wings and he soars to his death. It's very true. Yeah. He's dead. Next. Don't sacrifice. Oh, this is good. Okay, so this applies to dating. And I'll share with you a story that I've shared before, but it's just when I saw this and, okay. Don't sacrifice a certain good for an uncertain better. I'm going to say it again. Don't sacrifice a certain good. I guarantee it, locked in for an uncertain better. What was the South Park analogy that I used? Hell yeah, let it ride. But let's apply it to modern dating. Modern dating, okay? I remember this was many years ago. Many years ago, I was sitting on my couch in my apartment with my good friend Justina. She doesn't watch these videos, so it doesn't matter. But I've also shared this exact conversation with her about the fucking ridiculousness of it. A woman who is still single to this day. And I'm not saying causation, correlation, but let's call a spade a spade. We were sitting down on my couch, and I had never seen a dating app from the other side, kind of a deal, in terms of their swiping. Left. And I said, what was wrong with that guy? She was like, I didn't like his nose. Left. What was wrong with that guy? He was super handsome. Too short. He was taller than you. Barely. And I just said, dude, there's no way. And this is that story that I just shared with you proves, do not go past the mark you aim for in victory. Learn when to stop, but also having a sense of enough. Do not sacrifice a certain good for an uncertain better. As in, the biggest problem, and it's all been intentional. I'm not ostracizing this person whatsoever. It's what she represents. It's all been intentional. You have to understand, the biggest downfall to modern relationships, especially when you juxtapose them to your grandparents or my grandparents' generation, married at 19 and 17 for 62 years. When you compare and contrast, what did they not have? They did not have social media. What is social media? A global marketplace, global competition. It's not finite, infinite options, endless grass. And so what is the consequence, the result? Everyone betraying this exact line. Don't sacrifice a certain good for an uncertain better. You find somebody who's like, this person would be a great leader, great character, honest, loyal, good provider, attractive enough. Even when you watch videos of women from the 50s, 60s, they're like their partner wasn't even attractive and they didn't care. There's like he's ugly, but they didn't. Sorry for the noise outside. They didn't have unlimited options and unlimited access. So you would have somebody who the mindset was, I'm gonna be a spinster if I don't have my person after by high school. If I'm not with my high school sweetheart, then I'm just gonna be lost in this abyss, in this ocean, because without social media, you didn't know somebody living a mile away from you. You didn't know anybody outside of your hometown, or somebody who didn't know somebody from your hometown. There had to be a referral process, versus today. It's like I can, on a dating app, which I recommend you delete every single one of them. That's not a part of your plan, God's plan, any divine plan. You do not need to force what is meant for you. Okay, that's just my 2 cents, my opinion. But you can set the setting to where there's no distance, or you can just have Instagram or Snapchat or whatever, to where there's literally no there's no distance, and so there's unlimited options. You know what I'm saying? You could set your location to Beijing or to Moscow or to Qatar. It doesn't matter, and then you'll have all of the people within the vicinity of that city. So my point is this: what did we learn from this lesson? Don't sacrifice a certain good for an uncertain better. Okay. A few more lines. Know when you've won. Okay, we can move on. Know when you've won, dude. And I see it all the time. I see it within relationships. I see it within everything. It's like, this person has the world, and they don't realize how good that they have it. And they have everything just sitting right there in front of them, the perfect person for them. And it's just like, no, let me look for something better. Let me look for greener grass. And it's such a shame. It's such a shame. And I see it even just from observation in terms of modern dating, where there's such a high degree of peer concern about what other people think about who your partner is, that I've actually seen women who are in relationships who don't post their partner on social media. Like, I can't fucking imagine being with somebody who is ashamed to, advertise, market that they are with me. Why the fuck would you want to be with somebody who they had to hide you out of a shame to their peers, to their friends, to their family? It's just, and that's the sad reality about being that person's partner and tolerating that from the start. It's crazy. But know when you've won, man. Know when you've won. And it's so easy to see people who they know gold, they know treasure that's standing right in front of them. You see it in the appreciation. You see it in the love reciprocated. You see it in the effort and the gratitude and the presence. You see it in their eyes. There's a good quote. He's like, the eyes, Chico, they never lie. It's completely true. And I love having those conversations with people. Marcel is a good example, my boxing coach, where it's just, I asked him, I said, what gives you energy? And he says, when my wife we're done training at 11 o'clock at night or, midnight. And she says, thank you for making the time for me. Thank you for helping me in my goals and this. And he said, and I could see him just swell from that one recognition, that one specific praise, that one word of affirmation. And he just, all of the energy, and it's fucking midnight, right? It's just like, oh my God. When my daughter comes up to me and gives me a hug, when my parents text me and say, we love you, you're doing a great job, we wish you a great day, and he's like, you're a queen, like to his mother, this. He said, and I said, so family, and he said, family. And I love that so much because it's exactly the next season that I want to go into within my own life and my own chapters. I look at his daughter when she comes to the gym, and she's like, oh my God, I cannot wait. She's so cute. She's so adorable. She's just a freaking sweetheart. She speaks Portuguese and she'll say to me, hi, hello. And and she gave me, it's in my bag, a fucking lollipop. And you're just like, oh my God, it's just so cute. I was like, I want 2 of those and a son. And it's awesome. But that comes from gratitude. That comes from having a sense of enough. That comes from not, let me ride the fucking attention train. Let me milk all of the fucking modern day rosters. It's garbage mentality, garbage minds. I had that conversation with a woman from Argentina last weekend. I said, modern dating are people having these fucking rosters. She said, what's a roster? I said, when your top selects aren't available, your A, B, and C, then you'll go to D, E, F, G, H. And I said, people are living their life playing 1,000 movies at the same time. Imagine that. You're trying to watch a movie, trying to get invested into the plot, into the character development, to the emotional investment, and you have 1,000 screens playing at the same fucking time, right? How willing do you think you are to stick it through thick or thin, through for better or for worse, when you have 999 other movies playing? As soon as this one gets difficult in the fucking slightest, the first struggle, the first hardship, the first argument, the first, time of discomfort, on to the next, on to the next, on to the next. It's why the divorce rate is so fucking high. It's a formality at this point. People don't try. They don't go through things and grow through things together. It's just, let me go for greener grass. Let me go, see what's better. Let me go see where I have greater opportunity versus let me fucking try to work it out with the person that I love. It's a lost sentiment in the modern world. And if you have one of those old souls, and you find yourself like I do without your kingdom spouse, your person, the woman whose name, or if you're a woman, the man whose name is written next to yours, I wouldn't feel any sort of sadness with that, to not fit into a fucking modern world. You know what I'm saying? Like, I never want to be a part of that. I never want to be a part of people who, I have a roster, I have a sneaky link, I'm in a situationship. They don't know what courting is. They're with these people who they have no prerogative to actually be completely raw, honest, and vulnerable with. They have no intentions of having a real relationship of growth with. It's just someone who they're hooking up with, sleeping with, doing drugs with, just cracking jokes, drinking. It's just garbage. And it's cowardice to lead someone on emotionally that you have no intention on reciprocating. And so you're just like, let me use this person for sexual gratification and then shatter them emotionally and traumatize them from having trust with any future, vulnerability in terms of putting themselves out there for the next relationship. It's complete fucking cowardice. And so I've always lived my life in my relationships with the mindset of I'm never going to lead another person on. I have been led on. I'm never going to, when I know and have known someone wasn't the one, I cut it off immediately. And I've reflected on that a lot. It could be, my defense mechanism. Oh, I've been hurt. I don't want to get hurt again. So let me, reject you first. And that's a fair argument. It's a fair point. But also I've known in my heart of hearts that any person who I've not, or who I've ended things with, I knew in my heart wasn't my person. So yeah. Does any of that make sense? Don't feel bad for not fitting into a modern world. You know what I'm saying? When you are in your spirit, when you are tapped into your higher mind, when you're aligned with God, when you're operating with nothing but good intentions, with nothing but unconditional love in your heart, and you find yourself met with animosity or oversight or people not seeing or recognizing your value, it's not your burden to bear. You know what I'm saying? It's not. There's a good quote that someone else's version of you that they created in their own head is not your responsibility. So you don't have to live your life that makes sense to anybody else except you. So good ideas, good food for thought. It's just know when you've won. You know what I'm saying? This battery's gonna die, but fortunately I'm charging the other one, so we'll see if we have enough for the final end of this video. One sec. We're zoomed in. Hold on, let me zoom it out. Okay, to finish. My favorite show is Spartacus, and it's my favorite show ever. There's a scene in it by Marcus Crassus after he takes the city of Sinuessa, and his generals want him to push forward to flank the rebel army of Spartacus and his mongrel horde. And he just talks to them and he says, in time, for now that's somebody who knows when they've won. My goal was to retake the city of Sinuessa, and that's it. And you have these people who are so bloodthirsty, who have these egos, who have these insecurities, who have these this urgency, I'm in a rush, all this. That's where fucking mistakes happen. That's where you get lured into a trap by your enemy that they can then defeat you and outmaneuver you. And that is the biggest downfall of many generals, of many leaders, of many people in positions of authority, is they do not know when they've won. They don't know when they won. Or they had a goal, they had a goalpost, and then once they get it, oh, I'm not satisfied, I need more. There's a speaking of pedophiles that we started this video with, there's a scene in Family Guy where the pedophile guy, I forget, it's a good thing that I don't know his name, whatever his name is, Chris is walking by, he's like, please God, just his hat, I just want his hat, and then he goes and he smells his hat, and then he gets an evil face. He's like, now I want more. It's fucking hilarious. Anyways, a complete aside, but it's not knowing when you've won, and it's the complete inaction of this law. Do not go past the mark you aimed for. In victory, learn when to stop. And you have to ask yourself why. It's because that's where mistakes happen. People will rely on old patterns or old means that they used and that were successful in order to get them to a goal. And their hubris and their arrogance will go beyond luck. For example, that faggot not getting caught before they'll go beyond luck, they'll go beyond grace, they'll go beyond all this, their ego will be so inflated that no, my current non-arrest has been due to my cunning and my intellect and my intelligence and my, this, when it's like, no. By the fucking hand of God, you haven't been called upon for your crimes yet. But there's one truth I found to be, I want to say irrevocably true. I don't know if that's the right word. That has stood the test of time, and that's this idea of karmic balance. There's a observation made from Jordan Peterson of 25 plus years of clinical psychology practice. And he says this. He says, in all of my years, 25 plus years of clinical psychology, as this Harvard-educated professor, psychologist, I have never seen someone get away with anything ever, even once. Meaning, whatever the fuck that you think you're doing behind closed doors or that nobody knows about or this, it doesn't matter. It will. There's another quote by Sigmund Freud. Trauma suppressed will surface and find itself resurface in other areas of your life. Shit that you think you can get away with here or that you can sweep with under the rug here, the inner work and inner healing that you can neglect and push to the side and disregard here. And you think that, no, it's not going to bubble or resurface or, come up into other areas of my life here. If you think the quote, if I don't tend to my wounds, I won't bleed on someone who didn't cut me. If that's your mindset, that's the way that you operate versus if I don't tend to my wounds, I will bleed on somebody who did not cut me. You've already, it's a failed mindset, and you're going to be sadly, gravely mistaken. And anybody who I know who has betrayed me, who has committed a wrong against me, who has tried to have me put into the dungeons and into these investigations and into character assassination, to all of the things that I knew were not true with the intentions of my heart, and I knew that weren't reflective of my character. And any time that those actions have transpired, I knew that I was protected and that I was guided, and how it was all happening for me, and how the people who were doing those very things, they were at some point going to be held accountable for their actions, and that was not my responsibility. There's a quote in the movie The Revenant with Leonardo DiCaprio who says, vengeance is in God's hands. Vengeance is in God's hands. And then also I want you to keep in mind when you're thinking about people who have done you a disservice or a betrayal or a wrong, anger is a punishment we give to ourselves for someone else's mistake. Anger is a punishment we give to ourselves for someone else's mistake. So it's important for you not to punish yourself by putting yourself in this lower energy, this lower vibration, this, putting all of your focus into all of these things that only bring you pain and sadness and sorrow and animosity. And it's all a distraction. It's all trying to get you in this depleted, lower energetic, lower vibrational version of yourself. Ha, got it. Vibrational version of yourself. Because if you were operating with gratitude, if you were operating with appreciation, if you were operating with, peace and joy and love and unconditional love and fulfillment in your heart, and that's what you were radiating, just like a prism that we talked about, that's what your life would be reflecting back at you. And so it's very, very important that when life's circumstances and these, cretins and these creatures and these trials and tribulations, these battlegrounds that you'll find yourself, being that man in the arena amidst, it's very important that you enact what we learn with the neuroscientist, sorry for the noise aside, Joe Dispenza, where he says, it's not about being able to get into this state of serenity, tranquility, and clarity through an hour of meditation. Anyone can do that. True mastery is getting back to that state after disruption. So when somebody invites malice and betrayal and this, how quickly can you remain emotionally controlled, poised, calm, cool, collected, and return to that state of unbotheredness? That's emotional and spiritual mastery. And so that's how you know you're very far along on your walk home, is when you don't react immediately. You don't get baited immediately by your opposition, by your opponent, by the person who you're playing chess with. You stay cool, you stay calm, you stay collected, you don't disrespect yourself, you don't fuel their ego, you don't, one of the biggest reflections that I had regarding this law, or just what it means to embody being a Christ-like figure, is you see a big recurring theme in so many films. I was just watching the other day Kingdom of Heaven, and Orlando Bloom, who's playing the personification of Christ, he has a priest who is, in terms of his character, he's completely unfit to wear the cloth. and which is you'll find in, it's actually a perfect extrapolation of an observation of just modern day rat life, where you have these people in these positions of authority and influence who are so fucking unworthy and undeserving of the title that they bear. So this priest was smacking and hitting him, and he had all of this anger and animosity, saying, hit me back, hit me back. You see the same thing in Maximus Decimus Meridius and Gladiator, where he's entering the ludus and he's getting hit, and he's not, offering any sort of violent, action back. You see this recur again and again and again in heroes in film that are the embodiment of what it means to be a Christ-like figure, somebody who's aligned with God. And the observation is why? And then hopefully I'll be able to tie this whole idea to this law. Why? You're robbing them of the joy. As in, these creatures who are so insecure within themselves, who are so hateful of themselves, who you are a mirror. When you're your most transparent self, when you're pursuing the path of truth, of your truth, of authenticity, you are a mirror reflecting back to them themselves. And so when you're met with all of this despise and hatred and grotesqueness, they're seeing all of that fucking garbage just of who they are. They're just seeing their own heart reflected back at them. But a lot of them in their, abundant stupidity aren't aware of that, and they think that what they see is who they see, which is you. So somebody who is further along on their path of spiritual development and enlightenment, you understand that. And so you understand that there's a good quote by Dale Carnegie in the book How to Influence and Influence People. Don't measure others by the yardstick of your own years. And so somebody who has an enlightened mind, who is further along in their development, just like a parent to a child, you wouldn't ostracize or condemn the child who they just don't know any better. You know what I'm saying? And that's these people who, I just saw this clip from the Passion, where Christ is being crucified. And as he's being crucified, these guys are, mocking him and tormenting him, say, if you are truly God, if you're truly the Son of God, perform a miracle, take yourself down from the cross. And in that moment, he prays to God, saying, forgive them, for they know not what they do. Can you imagine that? You're getting murdered by your most heinous enemy, and in that moment of completely plausible condemnation, criticism, or reciprocated hatred or animosity, at the very least, the very emotion that all these people want to say, see, I told you. All they want is confirmation bias. All they want is to prove their own bullshit. They want their own rationale, their own justification, that they're not such a piece of shit. But when you can rob them of that, and you can pray for your enemy amidst that, dude, you take all of the wind out of their sails. And what you do is you force them to look at themselves. And that's where you'll see these people be filled with the deepest shame. You saw it in 300. Leonidas, he looks at Ephialtes, the hunchback, who had betrayed him and reported his position to the Persian army, to Xerxes. He looks at him and he points his spear at him and he says, you there, Ephialtes. And then he looks at him, ready to be, condemned, ostracized, reprimanded, and he says, may you live forever. And then you just see him get crushed with tears. There's another example of a court case, this guy who murdered this dude's son. And I think the guy was a priest or a pastor. And everyone was just saying, offering all of the stones and hatred and you piece of shit, all this. And and he says, I'm going to do something that's been so hard for me to do, but I forgive you. This is the father of the son, I believe I'm not fabricating this, who that guy on trial murdered. And the guy was unfazed, unbothered by all the other, hatred and condemnation, criticism and spite. But when he said, I forgive you, that's when he got emotionally battered and shattered. So the point of all of that is, I don't know. But it's good food for thought of when you have these enemies who betray this law, who go past the mark that they aim for, who you have to understand their character and their mindset. And these people have egos, and they're arrogant, and they're very, very stupid, and they're very, very emotionally malleable. They can be emotionally manipulated. They're not stoics. They don't practice emotional control and stoicism. They're not apt leaders, it's very, very easy to operate within your godlike, Christ-like selves amidst these children who they know not what they do. So, and the beauty about that is that's how you actually do them a real favor and a real service. You don't do them any favors by giving them what they want, which is confirmation bias, or what I learned from my job. I would get intentionally provoked by my fucking dumb fat bitch of a serpent superior, and she would use that as documentation to, in this perverse collaboration with other of my superiors, use it to form reports that she would have them submit on her behalf to human resources. That level of garbage is something that I by God's insight, I learned to not feed. As in, I knew, because the first time it happened, I was so upset, and she was very successful in eliciting a emotional provocation from me, an emotional response from her provocation. But then when she did it again and again and again, I refused to participate. And that's the only way that you can really beat these idiots in the game of chess, is literally letting them think that they've won. And they betray this law, which is do not go past the mark you aim for in victory, learn when to stop. This person did not know when to stop, and they thought that everything that they were doing was just going over my head, just because I was playing the emotional stoic and the perfect courtier, when in reality I was just playing the long game, and I was just playing cunning, and I was just playing chess, and I was just being in surrender to God and what he was telling me to do, which was to be still, to be silent and to be still. And oftentimes when you do that, you can just defeat your enemy by their own fucking stupidity. And so it doesn't require a great deal of intellect or prowess on your end. There's a good quote: "My unmatched perspicacity coupled with sheer indefatigability makes me a feared opponent in any realm of human endeavor." And it's funny how I'm in the position that I am today, not to take any credit away from God, but was the consequence of somebody, speaking for myself personally, who was completely incompetent in litigation, which was a heavy part to play during the process of my separation from my old job. As in, I was completely unarmed, but I can tell you that when you align with truth, there's a good quote, God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called. You'll be given help. You'll be given angels, you'll be given guides, you'll be given protection, you'll be given insights, you'll be given direction on what to do next, on the very next step to take. God will be standing there with his lantern, showing you where to go, what to do, what to say, what not to say. So all he needs is your belief that it's going to be okay, that you're protected, that he's with you, and courage. The courage to pursue. That's what Rat Life is. Belief, it starts with belief, and the courage to pursue. The courage to take the next step. The courage to do what he puts it in your spirit to do. I could give you an example that I promise I'm going to share at a future date, but this past summer, God put in my spirit to do something as an act of unconditional love, as an act of grace, nothing with malice. And if I were to share with you the result of that, it's fascinating that you don't know. You don't know where your obedience to God will find you being led. That's the best way that I can articulate it. And that's when your faith will truly be challenged. As in, I don't think it's anything to say I'm only going to be obedient when I'm completely fruitful, provided for, loved, appreciated, cherished, safe, all of these things. No. What is your faith like? What is your obedience like? What is your trust like when you are, the quote from Edmond Dantes, which is, "Life is a storm, my young friend. You will bask in the sunlight one moment, be shattered on the rocks the next. What makes you a man is what you do when that storm comes. You must look into that storm and shout as you did in Rome. Do your worst, for I will do mine. And the fates will know you as we know you, as Albert the man." That's my favorite quote from The Count of Monte Cristo. Who are you in the greatest storm of life? How obedient are you in your surrender to God and what he has called you to do? And I can speak from personal experience that I amidst a very, very low, like, you're at a moment of despair. I said, and I called out to God with like tears in my eyes. And I said, being obedient to what you put in my spirit to do brought me here. And I said, I'm still going to follow you. I'm still going to be obedient to you. I'm still going to operate with grace and with unconditional love in my heart. But what the honest, F. But that is all a testament to your faith and to your character, and to somebody who doesn't just walk the walk when, all things are lovey-dovey and good in your life, but it's truly that quote, who are you amidst the storms of your life? That's going to be the true testament to your character, to who you are as a man, to who you are as a woman. So with that, there's a good quote from Spartacus that I wanted to share. Underestimating your opponent is a Roman trait. And he says, Agron, Spartacus talking to Agron, he says, do not fall prey to it. And then there's another scene in one of that, I don't know if it was the same season, where Crixus is like, we should press advantage of these guys, we should fight them, we should make our last stand here. And he said, and then Spartacus counters him and he says, to face superior numbers with discipline, he says, I now fear the reprisal. And the point of that whole thing is his guy was emotionally driven, Crixus. And he was like, maybe it's, time for me to lead. And then that's when they get to a fight. It's an awesome show. I would highly recommend it. But the point is this. All of these things enact the law. Do not go past the mark you aim for in victory. Learn when to stop. Law number 47 is very, very true. You see it all the time. You see it in video games. You see it in fighters who don't know how to hang up their gloves. You see it in people who are these fucking creatures in positions of authority that they have no business being in, who have gotten away with so much shit that you think that they've gotten away with, that they think that they've gotten away with, and then it fills you with all this anger and animosity and bitterness and spite, when in reality is the quote from Jordan Peterson, no one gets away with anything ever once. So what should our task be? Number one is don't violate that law. Don't be Icarus, who, wow, this is perfect. I think it was by the approval of Apollo that he was able to fly that thing. I don't remember the story, but he gets the wings. Yeah, Apollo gives him wings. Who knows? And then he flies close to the sun, gets his wings melted, and then dies, right? You don't have to be that guy. We could learn from Icarus. We can learn from imagery from the thousands of years ago. We don't need to repeat the follies of the past, And I see that all the time. I see people who are constantly looking for greener grass, who don't have a sense of enough, who are constantly wanting more and more and more and more, who are constantly chasing the safety and the breadcrumbs of the rat life, who don't see the golden person or opportunity or life that they have that's right in front of them, because they're not operating with gratitude. Their focus is in the wrong place. Where focus goes, energy flows. They're focused on all of the lack. They're focused on what's missing in their life. They're focused on all the, I don't have this, my body's... And I've even fallen prey to that as well. I'm not immune to that. I'll look at my development, my physique, and I'll disregard the fact that in Brazil right now, I just completed 11 weeks of martial arts training, and it totaled 156 workouts. It was like 46 Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, 15 Muay Thai, 4 wrestling, 46, I think, boxing, 43 gym. It was 48 Jiu-Jitsu, 46 boxing, 43 gym, 156 training sessions. But with the past month, there's been so much sleep deprivation and malnourishment and not having protein and inaccess to this. And so my bodybuilding physique, that I'm, otherwise really happy with, has not been reflected of its potential. And that's been where all of my focus is, versus, wow, look at all of this other stuff that I've done. Look at all of these trials and struggles and hardships and adversity that I've been able to overcome. Look at these circumstances that I've been able to operate regardless of, It's so easy to not give ourselves that grace. It's so easy to focus on all the lack. It's so easy to focus on the needs improvement versus the, wow, look how far we've come. Wow, look at all we've been able to accomplish and achieve. Wow, look at the man that we are today compared to the man that we were 3 months ago. Wow, look, imagine having a sense of enough. Imagine not fixating, just trying to combine those words, on the goalpost that always moves You always need more. I just want what all men wanted. I just wanted more. Which that's not to say it's not, good to have a sense of hunger and ambition and drive, right? For, future accomplishments, achievements, honors, and glories. For the quote, life is not about what you get, it's about who you become and what you're able to give now that you've become more. So I'm not saying to neglect that or to forego that within yourself and your development by any means. But what I am saying is to have that sense of enjoyment of the journey, gratitude of the journey, enjoyment in the fulfillment of the day. There was a video by Peter Holmes, comedian, who said, spiritual enlightenment isn't to say that I'm better than this person because I'm, more awake or I know. It's I'm sitting in traffic and saying there's nothing missing. There's nothing that I'm missing right now in my life. And that's exactly it. It's regardless of where you go, where you are, where God would have you for that day. That's the assignment. That's the task. That's the required assignment. We learned that from Marcus Aurelius in the book Meditations. Anything that you go through within your life, regardless of how trivial, is required for your highest nature's design, your highest good. And because of how you can only see you're so buried in the trees that you can't see the forest, because we get this kind of view, not a bird's eye view, whatever, of our life, it's very impossible to see how this seemingly insignificant circumstance, condition, or event, how it's playing that bigger role within my life, how it's this critical puzzle piece, because I can't see the entire puzzle. You know what I'm saying? So with that's law number 47, Targ Haux. We're all going to make it. What is rat life? It starts with belief and the courage to pursue. And we have one law remaining, law number 48. So my plan right now is, what's today? Today's Sunday. I fly out to Rio the 30th. So I'll be here in Sao Paulo until the 30th. And then I come back the 1st, and I'm immediately flying out to the next destination, which is going to be Buenos Aires. That's where we're continuing this noble quest, this noble adventure of a lifetime. So my plan for the next 2 weeks, honestly, is just to work as much as I can in confinement, because all my gyms are closed. The bodybuilding gym, the martial arts gym, and the boxing gym. So 2 martial arts gyms. They're all closed. I've taken that, and the gym down here, the apartment gym, is even locked, and my facial recognition thing doesn't work. So I've taken that as a divine instruction that God doesn't want me to, he just wants me to rest and to recover from the 156 beatings that I've, endured over the last 11 weeks where, I have injury within this shoulder, within this hip flexor. If I could literally show you like bruises, I don't know if you can see it, that are on here and on my hip. I need rest, and I need recovery, and I need nourishment, but also I need to put all of my time, energy, and effort and focus onto bringing the website that I'm trying to build that I would love help on to life by the new year. So that's the plan. That's the latest. That's the greatest. We're finishing right now law number 47, done. 48 is going to be sometime this week, and then I'll do a recap of the 48 laws of power and the ultimate summary of what the 48 laws of power is going to be for you guys is, and this isn't taking any credit away from God, but when I started Rat Life University, the whole idea of escaping the rat life, if you enact the 48 laws with success, my current circumstance and conditions are reflective of utilizing the laws. Because so many of the laws I had to use in real time, even if I couldn't articulate at the time, even if it was a chapter that I hadn't read yet, right? But I was using them in real time in order to combat my serpents, these demons, these, come to find out, fucking pedophiles, these creatures that I was subject to working with and for. If it wasn't for emotional control, which that's the big summary of the 48 laws of power, is stoicism, is patience, is not underestimating your enemy, not overextending yourself, not having a victory fuel your lust, your satiation, to not having a sense of enough. All of these laws that we learned in the 48 laws of power can be applied to real time, to escaping the rat life. Because otherwise what's going to happen is you'll be a victim to the manipulation of these fucking creatures, these parasites in positions of unearned authority. And it does a lot of trauma, a lot of hard, like on your mind, on your mental health. It can be mentally fucked. to work in a place that you know, and I can speak from experience, to work in a place where you know you're going in to get bullied, to get harassed, to get abused, to get psychologically abused, to get manipulated or attempted to get manipulated. But unless you are equipped with all of these tools, you're quite unarmed in the fight to combat it. So that's the importance of these laws. That's why we're continuing to complete this university, because it's also universal. And it's something that's never taught in school, because in school you're indoctrinated into the system where you will be manipulated. Why would I, who want to enslave you, who want to keep you lulled to sleep, why would I want to give you the tools and resources to combat your enslavement? Why would I want to do that, right? So you have to understand that the game is set up for you to be a slave for life. And so these are tools and resources and gifts that I can only offer as food for thought, food for consideration, and little lifeboats kind of a deal, for you to venture on your own escape. And I don't see anything as a more worthy cause or a worthy fight, in our one life, the pursuit of freedom. Because what is the alternative? It's a life of fucking slavery. And you can dress it up in any fucking mask and dress and garbage that you want, in a nice, luxury apartment, in the car, and the keeping up with the Jones shit. You can dress it up however you want, but the reality is that you can't do what you want, you can't say what you want, you can't go where you want to go, or do what you want to do, or be with the people who you want to be with, and you're slaving away for 50 fucking weeks for a 2-week reprieve. You are not free. If you can't go into your office and speak your position or your truth, you are not free. If you find yourself going into an office where your soul is on fire every day and you have 1,000 contours of 1,000 different fucking masks that you're wearing, you are not free. You know what I'm saying? You're not financially free, you're not emotionally free, you're not physically free, you're not spiritually free. The whole game is slavery, and the whole prerogative is freedom forever. And that's what Rat Life is, and that's why we're doing this. So we're finishing with the 48 Laws of Power, and then we're going to go into I have it right here, keeping this camera up, the 33 strategies of war. And then we'll start within the new year. So with that, Tark Hawks, starts with belief, courage to pursue, Rat Life. We are all going to make it.